not been to Minnesota in probably 20 years.
Bring gas. Welcome to Flagrant Howls, a Minnesota Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.
All right. Hello and howl on Flagrant Howl. Howl from Chicago, the heart of Bulls country, or hopefully a future divisional opponent of the Minnesota Timberwolves when they move to the Eastern Conference. But old Macadac down here in Chicago for some top secret projects. We got the sports dad, Judd, who's been studying all of the Wolves' potential Summer League opponents, man by man, every single roster. We got Dex here. Before we go through a few things that we have our eye on as Summer League commences for the Wolves tomorrow, we always have our eye on good food, and Butcher and the Boar in the North Loop provides just that, Judd.
You know what, too? It is that time of year, especially this week in particular, where the weather is absolutely perfect. It's perfect for what? It's perfect for being on a patio, and I'm going to tell you the best patio around is the new patio, mega patio, Butcher and the Boar, as Phil just said, in the North Loop. Now, we're also talking about Southern-style hospitality. If you've tried their food, you know that their food is outstanding. But the patio itself, you get a craft cocktail, you get a beer out there. Perhaps you pregame it before a Twins game. It's close by Target Field. Nothing better than a gorgeous Minneapolis-St. Paul afternoon into the evening, sitting on a patio when it's this nice out. Make sure, if you do that you check out the Butcher and the Boar in the North Loop.
Amen. So tomorrow is Thursday, July 10th, and at the Thomas and Mack Center it's the UNLV arena, I believe, on ESPN2, 2:30 p.m. Central Time. It'll be the Timberwolves and the New Orleans Pelicans in a Summer League extravaganza. And then July 12th, so a couple days after that, Denver at the Cox Pavilion. That's a late night one at 9 p.m. So stay up late, kids. Get your nap in. Detroit, Phoenix. Judd, you want to give us a 20-minute breakdown of New Orleans and what the Wolves can expect with that Pelicans Summer League roster?
I'd love to, because you know what? It's interesting. The Pelicans themselves, obviously, as a franchise, are in disarray. But when we're talking about a Summer League team made up of young men looking to make a mark, who, by the way, could be playing next season in the NBA, this might be of the Pelicans, the Nuggets, the Pistons, and Suns. This might be the Wolves' toughest test yet as they open up.
That.
And I believe all of these games also are on FanDuel Sports North. So,
is that new?
Yes, I think it is. But the Wolves sent out a press release yesterday saying that, including so it sounds like it's going to be a side-by-side with ESPN2. So if you are a Wolves fan, you do not have to miss a minute of the action.
Wait, so when you say side-by-side, are they just carrying the feed of like ESPN2, or are Grady and Jim Pete going to be doing games at the Cox Pavilion?
I was going to check on that. I don't know. My guess is no.
Cash.
But NBA, well, you know what? Grady probably will do games. If I recall, last year at Summer League, he was doing NBA TV stuff.
Yeah,
which produces a lot.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't necessarily carry the ESPN coverage, but I wonder if FanDuel is just going to pick up the NBA TV stuff, which would be our guy Grady, who's great.
Would you rather watch the second half of like the third Summer League game, or Michael Grady following around actual Timberwolves, like regular roster Timberwolves, and commentating on them in Vegas casinos? Anthony Edwards steps up to the Wizard of Oz slot machine. He pulls the lever and cash.
So I didn't see him, but apparently Anthony Edwards was running stairs at Target Field yesterday. And Pete Crow Armstrong was wearing Anthony Edwards AE1 cleats, I guess.
So there must have been like a gathering of Adidas high-profile athletes, and they like reps were probably in town, and they brought Anthony Edwards over to meet PCA, right?
And then Boog, I forgot, Boog Shambi, obviously calls Cubs games and was here calling the game, and they posted a clip, the Cubs TV crew did, and had more info on it. I must have completely missed that. Not sure when or where he was doing these stairs, but was running stairs.
Just getting his work in, man. He is a workaholic in the summer.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to worry about that guy. You know, like Luka throughout the years, drinking beer on the patio at a bar. Like, he just grinds for 3 or 4 months.
He's a definite gym rat. That guy's around. He's hooping all the time.
You know, as they say, as the kids say. So I'd love to just throw out a few things. I am the sicko junkie that will probably watch every single second of these Summer League games. And there's 4 scheduled, and then we'll see how well they do. On paper, they're bringing a pretty loaded roster because like Jalen Clark is on the Summer League roster, and Terrance Shannon Jr., who we'll talk about here, is about to turn 25 years old. I don't know that everyone's going to play all of the games because there's a couple guys that they are going into the season leaning on them to be rotation players. So you're trying to balance getting them some work in Summer League and seeing how they develop, but also not wanting to risk losing them to some fluke injury. But let's start with, in terms of things that we are interested in, let's start with Rob Dillingham. Because he is, at this point, based on what they have or haven't done in free agency trades, like they've been very quiet. In fact, to this point, despite all the KD rumors and some of the buzz surrounding other potential trades that they may be kicking around, to this point, the Wolves have only subtracted from last year's team by losing Nickeil Alexander-Walker. And the additions at this point are going to come from internal guys. And there's a really clear path for Rob Dillingham to step up and be a guy that can generate offense, that can get past the first defender and get to his 3 levels of offense and be a distributor. But last year's Summer League, in retrospect, looking back at now the last 12 months, last year's Summer League performance by Rob Dillingham turned out to be foreshadowing that he wasn't ready. He was, he's undersized. He was 19 years old. And in those, I think it was 5 Summer League games, he shot just 36% from the field, 30% from 3. He was regularly just lost in the trees of Summer League, not the NBA trees, but like Summer League trees. And he turned the ball over a lot. And those things, now he performed better, like field goal percentage in his short stints with the Timberwolves last year. But like watching him in Summer League, you thought, okay, there's a definite skill set, but it's really raw and needs to be refined, and he's really small. And it's so just taking that into context, it's not a surprise that he wasn't a huge part of the rotation. But if he shows up, plays 2 or 3 games, maybe plays all the games, and has and the Timberwolves coaches are like speaking publicly about this over the last few days, that we want to see him drive this thing in Summer League. We want to see him scoring, distributing, and showing a command. And quite frankly, I don't think they've used these words, but I will dominate Summer League and show that you can be a running mate next to Anthony Edwards maybe as soon as the first month of the season. It'd be great if he could just step in the absence of a big trade or like a Malcolm Brogdon coming in. I know you guys touched on some of this stuff yesterday with Doogie, but like he is a guy that can help fill some major gaps for this team if he's ready to take that step. And that step could start at Summer League tomorrow.
So, of the notable players the Wolves are taking to Vegas, I think Dillingham is the one guy who should play every game. Like I don't see he hasn't earned a break yet, and plus like his success right now is vitally important. Like this is not if you get the distrust that Finch had for him as a rookie into year 2 of a top 10 pick, you got problems. Like this is exactly where, and we've talked about this for every team in this town, this is exactly where you need a guy to pay off to take that next step as a team potentially. And if they aren't going to add a guy a veteran that can handle the ball, that can sort of fill in the spaces between Dillingham's inexperience and Conley's geriatric body, then
Geriatric.
No, he's sort of geriatric. But then Dillingham,
he is basketball geriatric.
Yeah, but then Dillingham has to be that guy. And if you can't get Chris Finch to trust him or play him, I think you're going to, and I said this to Doogie on Tuesday, you're fine in December, okay? Like it'll work. You can have different guys. DiVincenzo, Ant can handle the basketball. That's not my concern, though. You are a 2-time Western Conference finalist. That's the question. The question is not, can you make the playoffs now? Or, oh man, it feels good to make the playoffs. The question is not now, oh, that was a huge win against the Thunder on February 1st. The question is, can you beat teams like the Thunder now or the Mavericks 2 years ago in the Western Conference Finals? Because like this is a window of opportunity here. Like you are a good basketball team. You are a success. So Rob Dillingham, in my opinion, as a top 10 pick, is a guy that Conley trade up for, needs to fit into that. And that means playing effective, efficient, trustworthy minutes next season. And if that doesn't happen, I think it becomes a problem.
Yeah, it does. last question on Dillingham to what you just said. Is it an overreaction to say that if he underperforms or underwhelms in these 4 scheduled summer league games, that it would be a big red flag?
I strongly disagree. I don't think it's a big red flag. Okay, so they obviously have traded a bunch of. They made the first round pick trades when they got Gobert. They used Walker Kessler to help facilitate that. But if Terrance Shannon Jr. obviously steps up, Jalen Clark steps up. I don't look at a missed 8th overall pick, and I know they traded up to do that. Like that to me is not something that makes me look like turn a blind eye or give me a crooked look at Tim Connelly and the Wolves. I understand that, hey, if he takes a significant uptick forward, you're talking about a team that might be able to indeed get over the hump. But if he's not the guy and he's just kind of a bust, are we really going to look at this as a huge disappointment? Because I wouldn't.
I feel like, so, yeah, on that front, I don't disagree with you. I almost feel like that's a slightly different question, though. Like, there's 2 questions, and it is a valid question. Like, if Rob Dillingham is a bust, does that make you think a lot less of Tim Connelly? And I think my answer to that is not really, because you're not going to bat 1,000 on your that dude has a pretty ridiculously high batting average on draft picks and big trades over his 10+ years running Denver and Minnesota. So, like, if Dillingham doesn't pan out, I'm not going to come on this podcast personally and say Tim Connelly doesn't know what he's doing, and the Wolves should look to get a different president of basketball operations. But on the Dillingham side specifically, if he comes out in these summer league games and looks a little lost and is turning the ball over all the time and has wonky shot mechanics and just doesn't look like a rotation guy, I think that's a red flag for Dillingham specifically going into his second year. I think you'll know pretty early, maybe in the first game or 2 of summer league, whether he's made some big time improvements since the last time we saw him regularly.
Where I disagree with Dex is this, though. It's the position he plays. Like, it's vital to Mike Conley, simply put, cannot be relied on to play as much as, God bless him, he has. You can make it go with Point Ant, which can be fine, with Dante. But when I'm talking about building a team, if you are going to trust that Dillingham is going to develop at that position, which is an extremely important one, I think it's a problem. Does it make me, if he busts, want to fire Tim Connelly? Absolutely not. Do I think it's a problem? Yes, unless you can get somebody else in. But right now, I think Dillingham's development and ability to play and play successfully in crunch time, I think that's one of the most important storylines right now. If you were to ask me to rank like 5 important Wolves storylines for 25-26, that is easily in my top 5.
Yeah. Let's get to another one here, which might be a storyline, but it's for sure a thing to watch at Summer League starting tomorrow, and it's Terrance Shannon Jr. So last Summer League, he came in, he was a late first-round pick, and he was conceding shots and opportunities in Summer League to Josh Minott, to Leonard Miller, even Dacian Nix. Like, there were some guys that were a year or 2 ahead of him in the Wolves development pipeline that the Wolves and those players themselves were just looking to get more run. And, like, Terrance Shannon Jr. took a little bit of a back seat at times in Summer League. And now you fast forward, 12 months later, and he vaulted to the front, vaulted ahead of, in terms of the young player pecking order, Dillingham, Minott, Miller, even Jalen Clark. Like, when Chris Finch went to expand his rotation in the Western Conference Finals, he did not turn to Jalen Clark. He turned to Terrance Shannon Jr. So he's a playoff, a fringe, but a playoff rotation guy now after 12 months removed from last year's Summer League. He turns 25 years old at the end of July. And if you're, again, looking to check some boxes for things the Wolves need in 2025-26, transition offense. They were near the bottom of the league. Terrance Shannon Jr., check. A guy who can get downhill, get to the rim, put some pressure on opposing defenses, check. And I would say, too, in the group of guys that could be replacements for Nickeil Alexander-Walker, he's right there at the top of the list for minutes, check. So I would love to see Terrance Shannon Jr. get whatever he wants in the Summer League. Like, just go out there and be a 25-year-old NBA playoff rotation guy playing against fringe NBA players. Yes. I want it to look like that. And I'll throw one more thing out there. He has been highly efficient as a scorer at every level the last few years. His last year at Illinois in the Big Ten, 48% from the field. Summer League last year, small sample size, but 50% from the field. And his rookie season in the NBA, 48%. So he can score at every level efficiently, and I'd love to see him just be a freight train for 4 Summer League games and just prove once and for all, like, all right, yeah, that dude, it should not be a question whether he's getting 15 to 20 minutes a night with the NBA Wolves.
So I think in the case of Terrance Shannon Jr. and Jalen Clark, they actually showed us enough in the season last year where I'm not as concerned. So I guess if I was to encapsulate this about the top line players that are going to go or going to play in Vegas, I would put it this way. If Dillingham doesn't succeed and he doesn't play next season, in my opinion, that's a red flag on him. Anything that happens with Clark and Shannon that does not include them playing consistently is a red flag on Chris Finch's willingness to play guys who he might not trust completely. Yeah. So, like, I guess I am more concerned about, like, has Dillingham taken the necessary steps here? Because that is a Dillingham thing. Terrance Shannon, like, I just think he plays like he plays, and I love it. And Jalen Clark defensively is a glove. All due respect to good old Gary Payton, who I love.
Oh, wow, dude.
Jalen Clark is he's a glove, man. Like, he just gets in your face and you can't.
But he's not the glove.
He's not the glove, but he is a glove.
He's a glove.
He is a modern day glove, though. I think he is like defensively. So, as far as like who I think it's important to really see thrive here, and a guy that I think should play every game and as much as possible, Dillingham's my one. Shannon and Clark, I'm glad that they're playing, but I don't need to see as much from them.
And they might not. I don't know that the trade-off is worth 4 Summer League games of Terrance Shannon Jr. It's like you kind of know what he is. He's not. If he was 21 years old, he's 25. Right.
He's old. So
although if there was no injury risk, it would be fun to just unleash 4 games of Terrance Shannon Jr. just to see what he could do.
Yeah.
By the way, a reminder and a thank you, guys, the audience. We are almost to 6,000 subscribers on the Flagrant Howls YouTube channel that we just launched like a month ago, right after the season came to an end. And it kind of makes us think that maybe we should have launched the standalone Flagrant Howls channel a year ago or 2 years ago. But you guys have validated the decision. If you haven't already, click that like button and the subscribe button. You can do that, and it would help us keep growing this thing. On the Apple and Spotify front, the show really it's delivered the same way as it's always been. But you can help us by giving us a 5-star rating and a positive review. And maybe in that review, drop your favorite random Timberwolf of all time. And once we get back to that segment, we can read through some of those comments. The next thing, or I guess pair of things or people to be watching and keeping an eye on here at Summer League. The 2 18-year-old 7-footers that they just drafted, Yohan Beranger and Rocco Zakarski, who's already shown a fun personality just bopping around Twins games and Lynx games and whatnot.
I love his name is a great name.
Old Rocco Zakarski.
That is like a great old school name.
It's awesome, man. Yeah, I think it'd be pretty shocking, just based on their age and how raw they are, if these guys were anywhere near the actual rotation this season. But as you project forward, the Wolves do not have a ton of big man depth right now. I mean, Rudy Gobert's 33 years old, obviously very limited offensively.
Right.
Julius Randle is a really good offensive big, and he can hold his own as a big thick body on defense, but he's not like a rim protector. In fact, I think he averaged like 0.3 blocks per game, maybe even less than that last year. Naz Reid, technically a big, and he can provide some size, but he also plays more like a wing.
Yeah.
And then after those guys, like Jaden McDaniels can play a little bigger. You can play him at the 4, but he's wiry. And then that's where like the list kind of ends. Then you get to we'll talk about Leonard Miller in a second here. Jesse Edwards is on a 2-way contract, but he's got limited There's a pretty low ceiling there. So like they're maybe not right away this year or certainly in the first half of this year, but starting in 2026-27, there's an open runway. At the very least, I'd love to see with Beranger, are you anywhere near NBA ready with your defense and your just sort of your acumen, knowing where to be, the rotations, shot blocking, and then maybe the offense comes around in like 3 years to some extent. But I'm really curious to see what those guys look like as really young players in Summer League.
He's only played for 4 years of basketball, right?
Yeah.
So,
like after the pandemic is when.
Yeah. So my guess is he's not prepared yet, but that does not mean that the raw athletic skill set to be successful is not there. So yeah, this definitely feels like to use your term, a runway for Gobert's replacement. Zakarsky actually intrigues me more right now. Like Beranger intrigues me down the road, but 4 years, like you're going to need a lot of, especially to play in this league eventually, you're going to need a lot of help as far as coaching and instruction goes. But it's interesting to see how they are trying to replace Gobert without replacing him immediately, which does make a lot of sense.
Yeah, they're planting some seeds a little further along the timeline, and it looks like Gobert is going to be on the team for at least one more year, or I guess we'll see what happens between now and the eve of training camp. That's when they made their last big trade last year.
True.
But I think they're going to try and ride out Gobert for at least one more year, and that contract is, and even him as a fading defensive player, like there's still some. It's not like a $55 million albatross contract anymore. It's right. In the mid-30s. It's tradable. But some of it depends on how quickly these other guys develop. And then the last thing on my list here, we touched on his name, but Leonard Miller. So I think he was their leading scorer in last year's Summer League. He has certainly been their most dominant G League player. This is going to be, his 4th year in the Timberwolves system. He's still just 21. He turns 22 years old later on this year, so he's still super young. In the 10 G League games last year for the Iowa Wolves, that was his 3rd year in the G League. He averaged 25 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists, 50% from the field. He shoots like 5 or 6 threes a game, but he's still working on his 3-point accuracy. Probably still turns the ball over too much. But to this point, he's kind of like a quad A baseball player where, all right, we know that you can put up 25 and 10 every single night in the G League. We know that you can be the leading scorer in Summer League. Like he's probably going to go out there and score double digits every night in Summer League. Can he be an actual trustworthy part of, I'm not saying starting or anything, but can he be like the 4th guy on your bench after you get through like Naz Reid and Terrance Shannon Jr., where you could play him for a couple shifts once in a while, and he could be because he's a big man, like he's a big, wiry, athletic guy. That to this point, Chris Finch has shown zero trust in using him in non-garbage time. So will he graduate from that like quad A baseball category to being a guy that you would actually put out there? And I don't know that we're going to learn much in Summer League because he's probably going to dominate.
Yep, exactly.
And it doesn't really answer the question at hand.
If I was to guess on that one, I would say no. Like I think Chris Finch
doesn't trust him. Yeah.
He's young, but he's also been around, and to your point, he has dominated the levels that you want to see dominated, but then he's not. Feels like he's just going to remain at the same place on the depth chart, and that's not a place that's going to play much, if at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would probably take an injury or two where you're just okay. Hey, we need like 7 or 8 minutes of a bigger body here, or major foul trouble. That's what Luka Garza was break glass in case of emergency, right? Oh, we have 2 bigs sidelined tonight on the second end of a back-to-back, or, a couple guys picked up 3 fouls in the first half or first quarter, and now we're going to have to play 8 minutes of Luka Garza. Yep. Does that break glass in case of emergency player become Leonard Miller in 2025-26? That's like his next step, I think.
Yep. I just don't know that I don't know that getting to that step puts you over the hump as far as playing consistently, which I don't think it does. So yes, he very easily could be that guy, but I don't see him, unless something changes a lot, emerging into the type of role that we expect for a guy, or I expect for a guy like Jalen Clark or Terrance Shannon Jr.
Yeah. So just a few things to keep an eye on. There's also some other interesting players. I saw Canis Hoopus did a good write-up a few days ago about like beyond the obvious players. There's some really every year they bring in a few interesting prospects from around the world or like around the G League. So it's definitely an interesting roster. And I don't know. This is a week and a half for basketball fan junkies who you fire up NBA TV at 9:00 at night and you watch Leonard Miller catching lobs from Rob Dillingham. Let's go. Very exciting.
I love it. All right.
So, all right, he's Judd, he's Dex, I'm Phil, and this is Flagrant Howls, your favorite Timberwolves lifestyle and junkie podcast. See ya.